right. So we are back with the You Winning Life podcast. And today's guest is business and marketing consultant, Erica Leary. And her goal is to help business owners generate more clients, close more sales, and increase their overall revenue and profits quickly. And here's the key thing, inexpensively. So I'm incredibly excited because she has tackled a lot of stuff in the work that she's done, including online platforms and helping other business owners add bottom line revenue in a very short period of time. And whether you own a business, whether you are working in a business, or whether you're just someone who's listening to this and wanting to get some insight on how to change your way of thinking about how to apply your day-to-day life to achieve goals, we're going to tackle some of those topics today. So welcome and thanks for hanging out.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and your audience. Very exciting.
My pleasure. I'm glad that we have been able to get this on the books. So the first thing that I want to jump right into is the mindset of things, right? Entrepreneurs, business owners, solopreneurs, family business owners, someone who works in a business, doesn't matter, right? We're all coming from a starting place that we want to contribute and do something good for the world. We also want to make money. We want to feel some purpose, some value, and stuff like that. So from your perspective of everything that you've been doing as a consultant, what are some of the key mindset tips and insights that you think that every person should start with?
That's such an awesome, fun question. I love mindset stuff. So I would say one thing is, you need to believe in yourself first and foremost, because especially when you first start out, there are going to be a lot of people who don't believe in what you're doing, don't believe in you, don't believe in anything that you are saying. There's going to be a lot of that going on. So I think first thing you need to do is be very passionate about what you're doing. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be working in your passion, but passionate about what you're doing. And then I would say, find some other people like you that are going through the same thing or have gone through the same thing or can help you go through the journey, because a mindset is probably one of the biggest, I guess, assets or make it or break it type things to any business or business owner. I think a lot of the bottlenecks happen with the owner of a business, and it is usually not an inventory issue or a leads issue or anything else that they're after. It's, that's the first thing that somebody will say, I need more leads, but you find out really, are you sure? So a lot of times it's something other than that. And 8 out of 10, I'd say it's probably starting with, the owner. So mindset's huge. You want to definitely get your mind in the game. And then, so that would be the first one, but also have a reason why you're doing it and remind yourself, if anybody's studied mindset or whatever, talk about affirmations or whatever. If you don't think that's hooky, if you do, whatever, but you need to know exactly whether that's a picture of your kids or a picture of, a retirement home or, buying your parents' house for them, whatever, you want to get done in life. I think it's very important to know, if you want to, Tony Robbins feed, I don't know what his goal is, 1 billion people, any kind of reason that gets you up on those days when you don't feel like getting up, because there are a lot of those days, as an entrepreneur, when you go through it, there are a lot of those days that you're just like, I just need to pull the covers back up over my head, and you can't.
Right. And just do it anyway. Yeah.
That's right. So just do it anyway.
So doing it anyway, having this mindset is incredible, right? There's going to be so many times in all of our lives, whether we are a business owner, whether we're entrepreneurial, whether we're doing whatever we're doing at any age of our life, we're going to have that thing that's standing right in front of us or not wanting us to get out of bed and just do it anyway. That's hard, right? I hear this all the time, right? So let's take it even more into a little bit deeper from an emotional standpoint, because we're humans. And we all have some level of something that will provoke anxiety in us. We have things that make us sad or angry or even, to a point of depression. When we're there and we have to do this stuff, what would that be, right? So to just do it anyway, we have great mantras and Tony Robbins and listening to a Gary Vee or an Oprah or a Deepak or whoever, right? How much do you find that consistency is going to help someone get through it no matter what adversity they're facing?
I think huge. Consistency is probably one of the biggest keys to success. I mean, I think if you go back and, whoever whichever successful person you like or want to follow, or business or whatever, if you go back and look, it's because they really like worked it when everybody else kind of gave up early, or gave up on themselves or the idea or the business or whatever it is. A lot of people run out of money.
Right.
But other than that, I think that the main thing is just the consistency, and you have to move forward. And everybody, I think, deep down knows when you're in a rut, when you're like, oh my God, yesterday was the worst day ever. The only way to really get out of that is by taking action. And even if it's a small little mini action, like getting out of bed, even if it's just that, putting one foot in front of the other, having a couple of things that you do consistently every day that make you feel like you're one step closer, I think is huge, huge, huge. And it doesn't mean you have to work 80 hours a day. Maybe that one thing takes you 10 minutes, but do it. Do at least one thing that is going to make you feel like you're moving towards your goal. And,
Right.
whether that snaps you completely out of it or not, I think definitely will help you at least stay consistent.
Well, I think that's the key of like listening to any podcast that focuses on success, is that the mental toughness always has to win, no matter what the original story is, no matter what the struggle is, right? And it's, if you don't build mental toughness, you're not going to weather any of the storms. And I think that when we take that mindset into especially creating or being part of a business scenario, every day there's going to be something that's going to be thrown at us. But even taking it again out of the entrepreneurial space, just to life, we just went through a tumultuous political season or political years, and there's still going to be fighting, and there's still going to be difficulties. It's a more perfect union. It never says a perfect union. And it's still going to be in 4 years, we're going to have the same thing again. Well, less than 4 years. We're going to have in 3 years, we're going to have the same thing again, of this all ramping up and starting over. And we have to realize that, like, this is a long-term project. This is a 200-year democracy that's young and new and scrappy, right? As Hamilton says. But we have to look at the bigger picture, and we have to look at that our life as the bigger picture. It's not just what's a week away, a month away, a year away. It's where do we want to be 20 years from now? Where do we want to be 40 years from now? What do we want to be our legacy?
Yeah,
once we're
I'm
no
very,
longer
very,
here?
very big into that, because I think a lot of people don't take, the time even to look at it. I think a lot of people think maybe it's a little scary to think about where they want to be or what they want to be doing. And so they just, ignore it.
Yeah.
But I think it helps a lot. I think once you actually sit down and not even just think about it, but, verbalize it, write it. I do think once you start writing things down, it changes, because even if it's in your head, once you start actually writing it down, it changes. And seeing that and believing in it is, one of the things that'll help you have that mental toughness and help you kind of get through it. I think it's a necessary part.
Well, it's also, I think, the idea of differentiating yourself from things around you, right? Whether as a person, I think this applies in people seeking relationships or looking to find a partner, that like, how do you make yourself stand out? That will make you become a more attractive person to partner with. But even in businesses, right? Differentiating your market position. And I know that's one of the things that you talk about. So what are some tasty little nuggets of how someone, whether personally or professionally or as a business brand, can start identifying some ways that they can differentiate themselves and stand out in a aligned way, in a way that feels purposeful for them and meaningful for them?
Well, that's an awesome question. So that's probably one of the very first things I look at when I start consulting with any business, besides mindset, but is their messaging and what it is that they want people to know about them. And a lot of that is about what makes them unique, what makes them different. And, does it align with, their principles and their goals and their core values, and how closely is that related, and how much are they actually articulating that in all of their messaging? And you'll find a lot of businesses either aren't articulating it at all, don't even know what it is, that, don't really know what it is that makes them different. Well, if you don't know what it is, you can't compete with Walmart. You know what I mean? Like, you have to know what makes you different. Otherwise, you can forget it. So I think competing on price is, in the marketing world, a lot of people, want to compete on price, and it's just the absolute worst place you can compete. Again, Walmart, you can't compete with them. So what makes you stand out and what makes you different? And I think if you tried to figure out what makes you as an individual different, probably bleeds a lot into your company.
So would it be fair to say that we should not focus on price at all, but it should be more about what's the value in that perception? I mean, obviously price is, if someone can't afford it, they can't afford it if it's legitimately a financial concern, right?
Right.
But when we're talking about someone wanting to see why they should maybe take that over investment, right? I can't afford it, but I'm willing to put it on my credit card, right? Or I'm not quite sure if this is the person I want to spend more time with. Not because, right, the value versus cost. The cost is I don't know if I have enough free time, right? I don't know if I have if this should be my primary focus. The value is this person showing, or this business or this product showing that your investment, even if you can't afford it right now, is worth it to stretch yourself a little bit thin, because here's the benefits that you will get from the opposite end that you never thought you would get.
Exactly. And if you are not, in however you're getting your message across, if you're not getting that across, then they're going to go to price, or they're going to go to something that really is, has nothing to do with their real decision. And so being able to figure out what, your benefits are to them, or how you can make their lives easier, better, whatever it is that you're selling. And being able to actually say that is key to them not questioning it, because it's not about the money. If you're talking about from a sales perspective, I mean, most of the time it's not about the money. I mean, do I think price has zero impact? No. I mean, clearly, it depends on where you want to be in the market. But again, if you're positioning yourself here, price wise, but all of your marketing is down here, you're not
Right, it's not consistent, right? It's not congruent with that, right? And I see that with people as well, especially again. I go back to relationships, because sales is all relationships, and relationship is all sales, right? Dating is all sales, and even in a committed relationship, they're still having to convince the person to continue to stay with you, right? As it would be with a business partner or a sales associate, or a sales associate looking to their business owner or their boss or supervisor, like, well, why should I keep committing?
Benefits?
Right? Why should I keep committing to your company if I'm not receiving, commensurate, benefits or experiences that will help me grow? Because, most people want to evolve at some level. When that gets stuck, how do people identify whether, if you're on the side of the, let's just keep it in the business context, like if you're the business owner and you're not realizing that the value is not being given, one, out to about the products or about your business, or two, to the people that are working with you trying to sell that, like how do you become aware without, like, obviously you not just having sales, but what's the step that people need to go from, like, okay, we're not making money, we're not producing enough income, we're not selling enough product, to holy crap, this might actually be a me issue, not a business issue?
Right. So I would go through a whole series of questions. A lot of times, if you look at where the bottleneck is, you can kind of find, if it's stopping right at the beginning, clearly, you're not getting to either the people that you want to get to, or, if you do, we were talking earlier about online and offline. So if you look at your funnel, or the steps, I don't know if they call that offline and online, but if you look at the steps that the people go through when they're trying to get to a sale, right? Normally you can find within those steps where it's sort of cutting off. And that's the first thing that you want to do, is find out, like, where that cutoff is. And I would say 9 out of 10 times, whether that is the problem or something else, messaging probably has a big part of it.
And the messaging goes back to the belief about what it is, what the brand is, what the value is.
And if the owner doesn't know, you can't articulate something that you don't know. And so if I ask you what makes you different and you can't tell me, clearly nobody else is going to be able to say it either. And I don't know if you've ever heard, I don't know if it's Gary Vee or who talks about this, but so if you're at a dinner party and the table next to you, they are talking about whatever your company offers or whatever your product offers, you want your name to come up whether you're in that conversation or not. And so you need to know that. What is it that I want them to be talking about when my name comes up?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. That's a synonymous with that brand, that your name is that brand. Right. And you want to be the person in any field. So it's right. South Florida, as you know, as I'm sure was familiar when you were living in Atlanta, is like, how many realtors are there in those two, right? In South Florida and Atlanta, right? It's kind of like everybody does what they do, and then they're also a realtor on the side, right?
Exactly. Here in Panama, it's the same.
Oh, it's the same thing, right? So right, it's that South Florida Latin culture addition. So it's kind of like, well, why would I want to use you? And if most people will assume, and I pick on this a lot because a lot of time people go into this just because they want to make some extra money on the side. Are you passionate about what you're doing? Are you only doing it for the money? And that's going to shine right through when it's not an alignment of your full brand with who you are. Now, there's many people who are radically successful in selling something that they really don't care about because they're creating a packaging and a message that is targeting specifically the people that they're targeting to sell that product to. But that's when there's a product versus you being the product. And I think that like when people are in a service industry, and I'm wondering like what you see, right? If you're in a service-based industry where the person is part of the product versus a product being the product, then it doesn't matter who's behind it. Is there a different way to go about?
Huge difference.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a few seconds.
Huge difference. So I would say if it's just the product, I mean, it's probably more straightforward, but you just want to say what the benefits of the product are. But if like in your business or in my business, the person has a lot to do with the product. Who you are and what you believe in has a lot to do, or your personality or, your strengths or weaknesses, whatever it is, that has a lot to do with you being able to connect with somebody else or relate with somebody else. So you want them to know that, but you also need to know who is it that you would want to connect with? Who is it that you would not want to connect with? Why would you want to connect with somebody like this, but not somebody like this? I mean, there's a lot of different things that you could kind of go through. And maybe, like for example, I don't, and as a marketing person, this sounds almost funny, but I do not limit myself to one type of business. Like I don't just handle doctors, or I don't just handle construction companies. And the reason I don't do that is because from a marketing standpoint, when I'm helping them, if I can pull stuff in from different industries for them, I can kind of pull a little bit from here, a little bit from there, right? So for me personally, I don't want to like lock into one type. However, do I like a certain type of business? Yeah, I want a business owner who is excited about the business and what they're doing and is really into it. I don't want to work with somebody who, isn't passionate about it or doesn't really, it's just like, I just want to know the numbers. And, my personality is going to rub a lot of people wrong. I'm loud, I'm excited, I'm happy. Some people might take that as I have no idea what I'm talking about. Other people might take it as I'm really passionate. It just depends on who that person is that you're speaking to. And that's okay. I'm fine with that. Like Gary Vee says, I don't care what other people think. I am also fine with that because I don't want to work with somebody who's going to say, oh my God, your laugh is so loud. Please be quiet in my office. Right. I don't want to work with somebody like that because I'm not going to sit in somebody's office and be like, it's just not my personality. So I do think that a lot of a personal business does have a lot to do with the personal brand. And literally it can be a product that you're selling, but if you make yourself a part of, a lot of people who sell physical products, for example, I don't know what your family does, and I know your family owns a like a brick and mortar type thing. So if they make the family part of that brick and mortar, that is going to relate to people who have families, or people who relate to the people who are making themselves part of the brick and mortar. Right. I think that helps a business a lot, and maybe could hurt it depending on your end game, depending on how you want that business to continue, right? Or how you don't want to continue.
Well, it's interesting. A while ago when I was helping them with some ideas from the consulting side, we kind of wanted to help them differentiate because they are a brick and mortar. We are a third generation family business. Our name is on the company. It's right, all over, and that is the branding. And we I've talked to them about, like, would it be better to take the name off if someone wanted to come in and buy you guys, and if is there a number that you would sell the company at, and is it better to, right, to take it off now or just to keep it on, right? And we went through all those conversations, but at the end of the day, it's still a family business, and I kind of helped them realize that people can buy some of the high-end products that they sell from other people. Now, they're always going to do a great job of trying to compete with price, but we already talked about that, right? It's also, what's the value? What are they getting in addition to that? So the way I help them phrase it or look at it is that they highlight what's great about buying your furniture from a brick and mortar family business. How do you do that? You're going to get someone in the family at some point in the process. You're going to be engaged with someone from our family. You're going to get the white glove delivery. You're going to get X, Y, and Z. You're going to know that we're standing by what we're standing by versus a big box store or another type of retail store where you have no clue. It's just a salesperson who, at the end of the day, they're trying to sell you whatever it is to get their commission. We want to make sure that once it's right, we want to make sure once it's landed to you, our name's on it. So the second it gets landed to you and it's delivered in your house, and they've gone over and they measure stuff to make sure that it's going to even fit in, and tell them you can't order this product as much as you love it. There's no way we're going to be able to get it inside. So we're not going to sell this to you, right? I don't know any other, a major department store wouldn't give a crap about that, or another type of, firm might not care about that when it comes to, but that's like the attention that we are going to, if it's not going to fit in our place, it's not going to fit in yours. So I think that's kind of where I see where business owners do have to be. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be in the nitty gritty. You and I probably believe the same of leveraging out and hiring associates and making sure that your zone of genius is where you're working on, and you bring the right staff to do that for the other things. So I guess that ties me to the question, where, for those people out there that are the solopreneurs, right? They're basically a 1 or 2 person, maybe a 3 person gig. How do they get to the place where they're able to now start hiring someone, knowing that they might have to take a short-term hit because, right, it's the retreat to attack type of paradigm, right? I need to make a little bit less this year, but that person will make my life easier, and that person will help me allow me to accomplish more. Where have you seen, and I don't know if there's a perfect answer for this, but where have you seen with any of your clients where they have had to do that? And where would be the ideal point where you would say, here's really proactively where you should have started, but if you're here and you haven't done this, you should definitely do it by this point in your...
I would say as early on as humanly possible, you need to hire somebody on, because it's almost impossible. It is impossible for one person to do it all. I mean, it's just impossible. And every solopreneur tries to do as much as they can by themselves for as long as they can. But at some point, you need to start figuring out, how much is your time worth? For starters, at the beginning, you may not have the money to hire somebody out. And I'm talking about, people who are on a shoestring type of thing. I get that they're not going to have the money to do it. But the minute you can kind of pull together, even if it's part-time, even if it's a couple hours a week, wherever you can kind of get somebody to do stuff for you, that is the time to start as soon as possible. And you can start looking at, I think, systemizing as much as possible when you can systemize, even before you hire somebody. If there's anything that you can get, computer systemized, that kind of thing, to help yourself a little bit, that helps. I think another thing is documenting from the beginning, the things that you're doing, so that the minute you can have somebody do it, you've got it already documented, and you just maybe jump on, there's so many ways to hire people overseas now, but jump on a call with somebody, a Zoom, something, and be able to do a video, or be able to send them the step-by-step, or video yourself doing the steps, and then be able to send it to them. I just think there are a lot of ways, and I don't want to put a number on it because I think it would be different for everybody in different circumstances, but I would say as soon as possible.
So it's interesting. So I was thinking about this from a marketing perspective. A while ago, I saw on social media this person who does one sheets for speakers and for those type of things. And it was really cool. The graphics were cool. It popped. It was a sexy looking thing. And I reached out to him oh, what do you charge for that? And well, we charge X amount of dollars. I'm oh, okay. And it was a lot for what they're doing. Anyway, a few weeks later, I saw something that they posted online about a new client that they had. And I went through it. I'm all right, it's cool. And I found 4 or 5 typos in it. So I sent him a message to that person. I'm hey, I really love the layout of the things. I don't know if you noticed this, but you missed these 4 areas. And the person responded back to me, thank you so much. I need to let the VA who did this know.
Okay, so if you're going to do something like that, number one, you should probably go over the stuff. Number two, you need to get somebody who's capable of doing, and especially in the beginning. I mean, bottom line, your name is on it.
But
The
here's
buck stops with you.
right. But here's what's
So
even crazier. Like he's outsourcing all that at 5, 10, 15, $20 an hour and charging 100x on that. So here's what I did. I printed out one of them and I broke it down. What questions are they asking per each paragraph to get what data is put on there? And I made that into a worksheet
beautiful.
of my own, right? And then I hired a VA and said, hey, ask me these questions on a Zoom call. I'm going to give you my answers. And I want you to take what I said to you on these questions in a Zoom call and I want you to make it sound sexy, right?
Nice.
But to pay $1,000 knowing that this person is spending $25 to do it, right? And this is unfortunate. This is the scary thing that people are finding in this entrepreneur world is that, right? How do you know who to work with versus, right? A, can you do it yourself? I mean, I really did reverse hack what that person was doing, but it really is like at that point, like, because there is that, like we said, the dollar amount, it wasn't worth it to do 1,000, especially wasn't after I found out that person's referring it out to a VA somewhere in wherever the Philippines or right, whatever it could be at $5, $10 an hour, right? So it just looks sexy with a graphic designer or whatever. So fine. So who do I can find for $200-$300 to do all that or whatever it may be? But I think like people are really nervous and scared, especially when everybody now has no proof about what they do, but everybody is, well, I'm a marketer. I'm a social media manager. I'm a social media expert. I love this. Like I love getting emails or hit up on social media for, I want to help you grow your Instagram page. And I go to the Instagram page and I have more followers than them. That makes no sense.
However, that's the shoemaker's kids.
Right. Right.
I mean, that could be that because I am sort of guilty of that myself. Like I don't pay so much attention to the things that I probably should as a business owner because, I started.
Well, if you're doing a ton of business and you have proof of concept that someone can show me, different ballgame. But if you're saying, I want to help you grow your Instagram and your Instagram isn't, there, then what, it's whatever. There's someone I know who's a financial planner and I'm like, but you're living in the same apartment complex as me. Why would I don't want you helping. Why would I hire you? Like, unless you show me your bank statements, you have $600,000 in your bank account. But if we're doing same, I don't want to be samesies.
Back in the day when I used to do like aerobics at the gym, like this is like way back in the day. I would do the same thing. I would go in, and if the person didn't look like 10 times better than me, I would walk out. I'm like, why would I want to do that?
Right. But I think that's one of the struggles that like, especially earlier entrepreneurs that are starting off, like, how do I prove that I know what I'm doing? How do I prove what we're doing? And right now is such a good time, especially in the middle of a pandemic. If you're good at something, and you want testimonials, you want video proof, you want whatever, record offer it for free and use it as social content, right? Easily. Right. To go into a restaurant that you love, if you're a photographer, if you're a copywriter, if you're a graphic designer, and be like, can I redo your menus? Can I redo your website? Can I redo your pictures for your whatever, for your menu and your website and your marketing? Right. And maybe you'll, don't even do it for money. Maybe they'll offer you free food, whatever. But and then say, I'm going to do this in exchange for social media, for me to leverage my brand. And most people will probably say yes, especially right now during this pandemic.
Right. I think there are conflicting kind of messages and views on that because a lot of people will tell you don't work for free. But I think that for you personally, when you're starting out to get your own confidence and for you to feel better about it, don't worry about it. Because if you don't work for free, what is the alternative? Are you just going to wait until you have the experience that you're never going to get because you're not going to have the confidence to actually charge somebody? You're going to get on like a downward spiral that's not going to stop because without the testimonials, you don't feel confident. Without, being able to actually do it yourself, then you don't feel like you can do it yourself. And then you project that when you're going out looking for somebody or when you're trying to. So I think I work with other consultants and coaches and stuff. That for me is just like one of the fun ones that, my target is more brick and mortar, local business type things, but for fun, because they're more like me, the hyper. Anyway, a lot of them, when they start off, they have that same sort of an issue. And I think that, getting caught up in like, oh no, but I can't work for free. who cares?
Hmm.
Do what you need to do to make yourself feel better. And then the other thing is prices. Like I might be able to say to you, you need to charge, X amount of money. But if you don't feel comfortable charging X amount of money, I can tell you all day long that that's what you should be charging. But if you don't feel comfortable with it, you're not going to say it with a straight face. That's what I always say. If you can't say it with a straight face and a punto at the,
Right.
at the end of that, then don't say it. Start off with something that feels comfortable, and if zero feels comfortable, go for zero.
I just
If
had
you
a
can say $10 a month and that feels comfortable, go for $10 a month.
And I just had a conversation with a client about that wants to start tutoring on the side. And I'm like, well, what are you thinking about charging? And they said whatever number. And I'm like, where did you come up with that low ball offer? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, what's the going rate? I'm like, well, someone I know charges whatever, and that's way too much. I'm like, but people are paying that. It's not too much for the people that are paying that person. So why are you deciding it's too much? If someone is making that money, then it's not too much. And you can't undervalue your whole perspective. And I found that I'm like, well, how much would you personally pay for that service? And they're like, well, I wouldn't pay that much. I'm like, well, that's why you'll never be able to ask for that. So that's where the confidence factor is. In order for me as a therapist and a coach and doing the integrative work that I do, I had to be comfortable paying someone else more than what
to pay the thousands
per session, right?
Yeah.
More than what I'm asking for myself, because that pain point starts changing, especially when I'm like, wow, this is the result I'm getting at $300 an hour to pay someone else, which is a lot of money for service. But if I'm going to be asking for X anywhere in that range, I have to be okay paying someone else to receive that.
Exactly.
So I think that's something out there. Then I'm not saying someone who's like, I have a $10,000 product, so I need to go buy a Prada bag this week or Gucci, whatever, right? I'm not saying, but it's like in that same leverageable mindset, like.
I was about to say that goes back to the whole mindset where we kind of started this full circle here, but that goes back to that. And me answering that first question, that you better be secure in what you're doing, because other people are always nobody would pay that. Nobody would ever do that. Nobody would ever buy that. You're going to get that all the time when you first start off. So you need to be comfortable with whatever it is that you are selling, charging, doing, all of it. You need to be comfortable, and you need to have your own confidence about it, and maybe a support circle or a support person or somebody outside of your normal, brother, sister, mom, dad, husband, teacher, whoever, that might think that they're trying to help you by saying you'll never be able to do that. But plenty of people before you have, and plenty of people after you will.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So find people that can kind of back that up with you.
Yeah. So let's talk for the next, the last few minutes that we have about your e-learning marketing system. I find it absolutely fascinating. So give us the background, how that, why did you decide to create that, and what and who out there is it targeting, and who should absolutely be connecting to what you're offering there?
Okay, awesome. So I use it but two ways. But number one, it's do it yourself, kind of 0 to 100,000. If you're just starting a business, if you are already into your business but you have things going wrong, it is a great way. You can kind of jump around. Anyway, so what it is a training course. It's about 52 weeks long. It is 52 weeks long, not about. And it literally goes through, like, from start to finish, building a very profitable business. And so if you had the time, going through it from 0 to end is awesome, because there's a lot of information in there. And even if you've started your own business, a lot of people who start their own businesses are not business people. They know how to do a product. They know how to, maybe they're salespeople and not business people. Maybe they, had an idea, created a product, bought something, whatever. So this is the whole, how to start a business, and from the marketing standpoint also. So I use it's do it yourself. And then I also go through it when I have my own clients, I go through it. I have another system on top of that I would use. And I don't necessarily go from beginning to end, because, I said earlier that I work with like brick and mortars, or I work with service-based local companies. And so a lot of them are already up and going. That's my main. So I might go back almost 100% of the time to the beginning, because that's where the messaging part comes in. But then I might skip to something else, like something else that's, important to their business at the moment where they're at. So the system is really good because you can skip around, but you can do it yourself, or when I do the consulting, I do use parts of it.
Awesome. Yeah, because some of the topics here, just as I go through them, is differentiating your business, which we've already talked about. Business ventures, right? Who to partner with, direct mailing, generating online leads using webinars and telemarketing and teleseminars, radio,
That's
TV
kind of
advertising.
old school, nobody does.
Right, but it's still
people
existent.
do.
It's still, yes, some people are, especially in the fashion, not fashion, like the furniture and the interior design, they're still doing all that stuff, right? The vanities, right? By you know those type of places are doing that in that world. So there's a lot of
audio is going to be big in the next couple of years, whether you believe it or not.
It's huge. Well, it's already here and it's already huge. Forget podcasts. We're now talking about Clubhouse, that app, which is just insane. I don't know if it's opened itself up to Latin America yet, but in North America, right, in just North America, meaning like the United States and Canada, the last month, this Clubhouse app has been insanity. And right now it's only eligible to people who are on Apple products to have access to it. And you need to be invited in. And it's an online networking conference, talk group chat with there's everybody from we were talking about Gary Vee is on it, and Grant Cardone and Damon John and Lewis Howes and you're just in a room with them, and you can get on a virtual stage and ask them a question, or you can create
have kind of that
organic
engagement that you wouldn't be able to have otherwise. Yeah.
There's some people I'm already going to have on future guests that are significant founders of crazy companies that are just in a room, and you're like, hey, I was just on that chat with you and I asked you that question. Would you be on my pod? Right? It's just the amount of leveraging. It's here, and it's it's the early adapters that always win. Right? You hear Gary Vee talk about I should have bought in at stock, and I was such an idiot and whatever, and he's that's one of my biggest regrets, right? Versus all the other things that he's done right. So it's the early adopters that are going to take and use and leverage and use it for marketing and branding and sharing their passion. It's super, super, super cool. So I want to challenge people out there who are not used to new technology, right? We're already at the middle to tail end of TikTok, but it's still an open wide space. I don't personally use it. I just don't have the time.
I actually think it's not, the end, anywhere close to the end. Actually, I think it's still a good, so I think with TikTok, the problem is that because it was dance and music and everything, people didn't get into it. I don't use it for my consulting business either, but I do have a brick and mortar that I pivoted online that was a language school, and I do use it for that. And it is amazing. I mean, it is an amazing platform. I do not sing and dance. Right. I haven't done it from the get-go, and I've got 10,000, or more followers on there. Mm-hmm. And I never once, did a
right. So it depends on your niche of what you're really doing. For me at the beginning, when I saw it was pre-pandemic into the beginning of the pandemic, and I'm like, all right, I'm not getting any value, and I just see myself wasting so much time. So I didn't leverage it, even though I did create a few things, but it wasn't right. It's a consistency we talked about, but I wasn't getting enough. My focus was on Instagram, and my focus was on Facebook and my podcast and stuff like that. And I was taking some stuff, but it just wasn't resonating for me. It didn't feel like it's the place that I wanted to be.
And that's the other thing. Where are your people, and how can you get them between the things? I mean, you're already on, 2 or 3 different ones. So,
well, it's interesting because a month ago, so we're now at the beginning of January, about a month ago, my main Instagram got shut down for no rhyme or reason. Nothing political, nothing pandemic wise, nothing. The next thing I knew, it just got shut down. So I had my second back one that was just for my podcast, even though I was doing everything on that main one with my practice, and I had to start from scratch. But here's the crazy thing, joining Clubhouse.
You didn't get it open again?
I could not get it back. I have multiple emails and all this other stuff. So here's the interesting thing. In just the last 2 weeks alone, I went from, let's say, I haven't touched it in, 6 or 8 months until December. From the time that I joined Clubhouse to this week, the numbers that I had doubled. Still low numbers, right? But it went from 120 to 310 in the span of 3 weeks, right? So there's that facilitation of finding the right platform where you can get organic connection with people that are like-minded, that are in the same things that you're into, that that when they're going to look at your thing, they're liking it or engaging with it because they're interested in it as well.
Exactly.
And I think that's really what the focus needs to be on versus just getting your likes and your numbers, because that doesn't mean anything if there's no engagement with like-minded people.
Exactly. Yeah. 100% agree with you. And I definitely think, different platforms is a must. I think a lot of people back in the day said, oh, just focus on one, I don't think that is a good idea at all, but nor do I think think you need to be on 10 of them.
Right. And especially with what's going on in today's climate, where it could be shut down at any given time. And that's why it's super cool for you, where your stuff is hosted on your website versus on some other website or on YouTube or whatever, where it could be taken down for whatever reason that you're hosting it on yours. And I definitely would recommend for people, it's a little bit more costly and a little bit more challenging, but to find a way that you at least have a storehouse of your marketing stuff on something that's your own platform as well, in case something happens in the future, no matter, whatever's going on in the world with whatever, these social media platforms that can, for no rhyme or reason, people stuff
Facebook has been doing it a lot
for
too.
nothing, right? It could just be a keyword that they're assuming will fill in the next keyword. So yeah, just want to be mindful for that as a
normally they turn, but that is the second time I've heard that about Instagram, that they never got it back on. Wow.
Never got back on after multiple of those. So it is what it is. One day it might show back up. But for those of you out there who want to get more of this, if you're in the marketing and the business side, and you want to do some business development, business marketing, definitely check out Erica's website. It's ERICA, Leary, LEARY.com. And that's where you can see her e-learning marketing system. You can see she has a really cool tool called the Marketing Evaluator, which has a bunch of different verticals to see how well you're doing and different aspects of building your case and all this different perspective of putting your message and your brand out there. So Erica, really want to thank you again for spending some time with us today.
Thank you. It was so awesome. And I appreciate the opportunity again.